The reason why I'm opening my TED Talk about the Compton Cricket Club with Hitler's troops marching into Prague in 1939 is that this is the event that changed the direction of my life. Even though my father was a well-respected doctor and my parents were very much involved in the Czech cultural artistic community at that time, they very soon realized that they would not be spared the Nazi ultimate solution for the Jews of Europe, so they escaped from Czechoslovakia. This is my mother's original visa, stamped by the Gestapo, that I still keep as a constant reminder of what could have been. My parents landed in England, and I was born during the last few months of World War II. I grew up in London and had a boarding school education where I learned how to play the very British game of cricket. Not very well, by the way. Cricket was born in as an English sport in a village called Hambledon in 1750. Little did I ever imagine during my school years that I would be visiting that village many decades later, not by train or bus, but by plane with a bunch of kids from Compton, California. During my school holidays, I would drag my friends to a local orphanage, take children out on outings and field trips, a passion that I didn't realize at the time would strongly influence my future. At the age of 18, my father, who never got over losing his whole family in the Holocaust, took his own life. Not wanting my mother to carry the burden of paying for my university education, I took a secretarial course and started working in the film industry at various studios and eventually for an American film producer on 2 films. In 1970, Sam Peckinpah, renowned film director, came to England and into my life. He hired me to be his assistant on the iconic film Straw Dogs, starring Dustin Hoffman, which we shot in Cornwall. When Straw Dogs was completed, Sam was immediately hired to direct a film with Steve McQueen in Arizona, and he took me with him. I worked with him on 7 more films over the next 8 years. One was a film called Killer Elite, which we shot just up the road here in Sausalito over 40 years ago. I know I don't look it. I never quite got my own director's chair, but as you can see, I got my own box. It says Katy's personal box, which I went with me on every film. I took it with me when I worked with Sam. I then worked with Michael Cimino on The Deer Hunter and many other films, including producing the now classic Blade Runner with Sir Ridley Scott. In 1987, I was a founding member of the British Academy of Film and Television Arts in Los Angeles and joined the board in 1990. For years, I'd been involved in every aspect of the Academy, but as chair of our Community Education and Outreach Committee, I've always focused my best efforts on our charitable work, using film and the arts to empower and motivate the youth in the disenfranchised areas of Los Angeles. Every year, the British Academy holds the Britannia Awards, honoring lifetime achievements in the film industry. In 1993, the award was presented to director Martin Scorsese by His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Earl of Wessex. That year, my life was going in a radically different direction. While still working in the film industry and very active on the board of the British Academy, I began leading a double life. I started volunteering at a homeless shelter in downtown Los Angeles called the Dome Village. It was the brainchild of homeless activist Ted Hayes. I got so involved with that volunteering, evolved into becoming the executive director of the village, and I spent my days on Skid Row in the mornings and my nights in Hollywood, so to speak. As I knew Prince Edward was coming to town for our very Hollywood affair, I asked my friend, the British Consul General, if His Royal Highness would consider visiting the underbelly of Los Angeles as well as Tinseltown. Prince Edward did indeed grace us with his presence and also spent the day on Skid Row and his night in Hollywood. While sitting in Ted's dome, he graciously said, "Well, the next time you come to England, you must come and visit me in my house and join me for a spot of tea." In 1995, the captain of the Beverly Hills cricket team called me as secretary of the British Academy cricket team and asked if anyone could play for Beverly Hills that weekend. As it was too short notice to find a BAFTA player, I said to Ted Hayes, "Do you want to play cricket this weekend?" After a brief moment, he looked up from his desk and said, "What's cricket?" Well, it's like baseball, but instead of running around in circles, you run up and down. 2 days later, Ted Hayes, homeless activist, played cricket for Beverly Hills underneath the Hollywood sign. Much to everybody's amusement, when he hit his first ball, he dropped his bat, as in baseball, and ran to first base. He didn't obviously listen to what I told him to do. He was, however, completely hooked on the game and said to me at the end of the day, "Let's teach cricket to the homeless. This is such a gentlemanly, ethical sport. I know what they will learn on the field of play they will take into their lives, and that'll change them." With the help of their several expat cricketers, we not only put a team together, but in 6 months we were touring England as the first ever American homeless cricket team called... They were called the LA Crickets with a K. Realizing that cricket could also be a major gang prevention tool, in June of 1996, we held the Day of the Cricket at Compton High School that birthed the Homies and the Pops, officially known as the Compton Cricket Club. These young men joined the cricket team specifically to find an alternative to the gang activities, violence, and prisons that rule their neighborhoods, giving them a vision of a positive and productive future.
The Compton Cricket Club.
There's no way people could actually imagine cricket and Compton in the same sentence, because it's totally opposites. You know, Compton has this image of gangsterism, killings, everything that's bad, versus cricket that's everything that's good. So it's, it's an oxymoron.
Nicknamed the Homies and the Pops, the team was founded in 1995 by homeless activist Ted Hayes and film producer Katy Haber. Having worked together at the Dome Village, a homeless community in downtown Los Angeles, Katy introduced Ted to the sport when the Beverly Hills and Hollywood Cricket Club needed an extra player.
Cricket is the antithesis of what the kids are getting involved in now. Cricket is dignified. Cricket is well-mannered. Cricket, as I said, teaches you a lifestyle.
Originally called the LA Cricket, the team was made up primarily of homeless players. But back when we filmed with them, it also included former gang members. A regular participant in the LA Social Cricket Alliance League, the club's aim was to address homelessness and to curb the negative effects of gang activities amongst the youth of inner-city Los Angeles through the principles of cricket.
Cricket goes beyond the boundary. I believe if you go onto the cricket field with that kind of thinking, by the time the game is over, when you leave the field, you are a much better person that came on the field in the first place.
In 1997, the Homies toured England for the first time with the help of some major sponsors. That's the London Dungeon, by the way. They enjoyed that immensely. It included a game in Hambledon, which launched our pilgrimage to the birthplace of cricket on all our subsequent tours. While visiting the Houses of Parliament, we bumped into Gerry Adams, president of the Sinn Féin party, who invited us to visit him in Northern Ireland. On our 1999 tour, we did indeed incorporate a trip to Northern Ireland. A cricket match against the British civil servant team was complemented by a game of hurling against a Catholic team, a game the Homies learned specifically for the tour, and I think I almost killed them. It's the most dangerous sport you can imagine, but they learned it. In a pre-arranged meeting by Mo Moland, the then Secretary of State, as a sign of peace and goodwill, the team presented the head of the Ulster Unionists, David Trimble, with a hurling stick. And to Gerry Adams, leader of the Sinn Féin, we presented a British cricket bat. The Compton Homies were not only officially involved in international politics, but had first-hand knowledge of what 800 years of urban violence can do to a nation. In 1999 and 2001, we accepted Prince Edward's kind invitation and visited in both his homes, Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, where we played cricket against the Windsor Castle staff and serenaded His Royal Highness in the clubhouse with Theo and Isaac Hayes' cricket rap, from bullets to balls, from gats to bats, we're playing cricket.
As a team, they've gotten pretty far. In the spring of 1997, sponsored by Prudential and Tommy Boy Records, the Homies and the Pops toured England. Suddenly, this group of homeless men and ragtag kids, many of whom had never been out of Compton, found themselves having tea with Prince Edward in Buckingham Palace.
I could have done worthy things in England. I could have, come to great heights in the movie business. I know I never would have walked into Buckingham Palace, into the private residence of Prince Edward, and had tea with him. But it took a bunch of gangbangers from Compton to get me there.
In 1868, the first Australian touring cricket team was an indigenous team called the Johnny Muller Aboriginal Cricket 11, many of whom came from a small town in the Australian outback called Harrow. The team travelled for 3.5 months on a boat to England to play at Lord's Cricket Ground. One of the team, King Cole, died on the tour and is buried in Hastings, Kent. In 2001, the Compton Cricket Club was the first all-American-born cricket team to play at Lord's Cricket Ground also. Coincidentally, at the same time, the second Aboriginal touring cricket team, captained by Barry Firebrace, was also on tour, almost 1.5 centuries after the original Johnny Muller tour. We played them at Hambledon that year for the first now historic Indigenous Cup. The inscription reads, "This perpetual cup commemorates a unique cricket event. An Australian Aboriginal and Torres Straits Islander cricket team played in England at Hambledon, renowned as the cradle of modern-day cricket, this Thursday, the 4th of September, 2001. While on the tour, Barry Firebrace visited King Cole's gravesite to commemorate his death. This is Barry's daughter, Ida Rose Firebrace, proudly wearing our Compton Cricket Club t-shirt just a few weeks ago. In 2011, the Compton Cricket Club was the first all-American Indigenous cricket team to tour Australia. We took a reverential pilgrimage to Harrow, where we were honored to play a game against the actual descendants of that original Johnny Muller Cricket 11. Quite a feat for the homies from the mean streets of Compton, don't you think? This is them visiting and having a moment of silence at the Johnny Muller gravesite. Quite an event, I can assure you. This is Where Are We Now? In 2012, we were approached by the LAPD anti-terrorism unit to see if we could teach them the game of cricket, commending us on our use of the sport for conflict resolution. Unfortunately, they were a little busy to come to practice, but we were honored to have their support and, above all, recognition. In October 2014, Compton made the finals of the Last Man Stands cricket tournament in Napa Valley, playing the Sonoma Gullies, the Marine Socials, and the Napa Valley Cricket Club. It was there I met Andrew Healy, who kindly invited me to come and speak to you today. As Laurel Hardy once said, "Now there's a fine mess you got me into, Andrew." We're proud to have as our captain our team Nick Compton, renowned British cricketer and grandson of the legendary British cricketer Dennis Compton, which is probably the reason why we got to the finals, but who's going to tell? When I was arranging our first tour of England in 1997, I called Dennis Compton and said we wanted to play him and visit his village team. He was thrilled that we were coming and thanked us for naming our team after him. I just didn't have the heart to tell him that it was not the case. Unfortunately, he passed away before we came on tour, so we never got to meet him. But I was able to tell his grandson, Nick, our story, and now that we are truly part of the great Compton family, whether he likes it or not. This is Emilio Casares and Raul Flores' kids at the Last Man Stands tournament. We hopefully will carry the Compton banner and be the next generation of the Compton Cricket Club cricketers. On April 18th, some of the Compton Cricket Club will play for the British and the rest of the world, playing Australia and New Zealand in celebration of Anzac Day, which is the National Day of Remembrance for those who have served in all the wars, but specifically who fought at Gallipoli in World War I. This mural hangs in Australia commemorating the indigenous fallen, the Aboriginals, and was created by Hugh Snellgrove, who was our 2011 Australian tour manager. This is me with the British Consul General, Merrick Baker Bates, when I received my MBE award at Buckingham Palace, the most excellent order of the British Empire for services to the community in Los Angeles, especially bringing the British game of cricket to America. We never knew, when we came up with this idea 20 years ago, that cricket would have the power that extends way beyond the field of play, a play without boundaries that can save lives. But we will never forget and forever hold close to our hearts Jesse Casares and Steve Penales, victims of the streets, whose lives we were not able to save. Finally, I would just like to show you how our success has been immortalized. From the streets of Compton to a wall in Sydney is a graffiti, which, by the way, is legal in Australia, not here, where we showed Jesse Casares and Steve Penales and recognized them and we will never forget them for their loss. From the streets of Compton to the National Portrait Gallery in London. The Compton Cricket Club will ever be immortalized in London this year. Edward Sutcliffe, renowned portrait artist and winner of the BP Travel Award, will be exhibiting his portraits of the Compton Cricket Club in a special exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery from June until September of this year. This one is Sergio Penales. Not bad for a bunch of homies from Compton to be in the National Portrait Gallery in London. My parents would have been so proud to see my portrait hanging there too. I hope they can see me somewhere. From the streets of Compton to the streets of Los Angeles or maybe Napa, we're finally looking for a wall in California for Hugh Snellgrove to mount this mural of the Compton Cricket Club somewhere, somehow. Any ideas? If you have a wall or have a place, let me know. We'd love to have this mural on your wall. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you about the Compton Cricket Club.